My name is Sophia, I'm 28, and my own sister kicked me out of her wedding the night before the ceremony. Little did she know, I owned the venue, and I was about to cancel the whole thing. Before I tell you how I exposed a lifetime of lies with a single conference call, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. It all started with a text message. The kind that makes your stomach drop to the floor. It was 11:47 p.m., the night before my sister Melissa's dream wedding. My phone buzzed, lighting up the dark room with a notification that might as well have been a slap in the face. Don't bother showing up tomorrow, Sophia. You're no longer welcome at my wedding. I read it once. Then twice. There was no explanation, no I'm sorry, just a cold, hard dismissal. For a moment, I just sat there, the glow of the screen reflecting in my eyes. I wasn't shocked, not really. Disappointed? Always. But shocked? No. This was just the grand finale to a lifetime of being the family's resident disappointment. I put the phone down on the nightstand, next to a set of keys engraved with a discreet logo for Grandview Hospitality, a company no one in my family had ever bothered to ask about. I looked at those keys, then back at the dark screen of my phone. A cold, quiet calm washed over me. Melissa didn't know it, but she had just handed me the matches and pointed to the perfectly manicured garden she'd spent years cultivating. She had no idea she was the one who was about to get burned. To understand why a sister would do that, you have to understand my family's two realities. There was the one they all lived in, and then there was mine. In their world, I was Sophia Hartwell, the 28-year-old underachiever. The one with the little job at some no-name event company, the one who drove a beat-up Honda Civic and lived in a cramped apartment. A walking, talking object of their pity. Then there was my reality. The one where I got up at 5 a.m. every day, not out of desperation, but out of drive. Where the little job was actually a position I created for myself, founder and CEO of a multi-million-dollar hospitality empire. Where the cramped apartment was actually a sleek, minimalist service flat I kept in the city for late nights, a stone's throw from my actual penthouse. And the beat-up Honda? It kept me grounded. I remembered my college graduation like it was yesterday. I'd graduated with top honors, my name called out with a distinction. I scanned the crowd for my parents, Richard and Carol. They weren't there. They showed up 20 minutes late, missing the entire ceremony, handing me a wilting bouquet from a gas station. Sorry we're late, honey, my dad had said, clapping me on the shoulder. We had to catch Melissa's dance recital. She won first place in regional qualifiers. Can you believe it? My summa cum laude plaque felt like a piece of cardboard in my hands. That was the pattern. My successes were footnotes, Melissa's were headlines. Just hours before Melissa's text, I was sitting in that very service flat, staring at an award on my shelf. It was tucked behind a row of books, Tri-State Area Entrepreneur of the Year. Heavy, solid glass. I never took it home. My phone rang, and it was Anna Chen, my COO and my rock. Are you sure you want to go to this rehearsal dinner? She asked, her voice laced with the concern of someone who had heard all the stories. I sighed, looking at my reflection in the dark window. I have to try, Anna. For them. It's one last time. You don't owe them anything, Soph, she said softly. Remember who you are. I went. And it was a mistake. The dinner was at a ridiculously expensive restaurant. The air was thick with the scent of money and judgment, mostly coming from Brandon's mother, Eleanor Keller. She looked me up and down, her gaze lingering on my simple, elegant but not flashy dress. Sophia, dear, she said, her voice dripping with condescending sweetness. Brandon tells me you work in events? That must be so interesting. Helping people plan their big days. I felt my jaw tighten. Something like that, I managed. The conversation went on, with Eleanor not so subtly comparing my modest career to her son's roaring success in finance. I could feel my parents shifting uncomfortably, not for me, but for themselves. for the embarrassment I was causing them. I could see the storm brewing in Melissa's eyes. She was a sponge for social pressure, and Eleanor was squeezing hard. Finally, Melissa stood up, tapping her glass for attention. "I just want to make a quick announcement," she said, her voice trembling slightly. The whole table went quiet. She wouldn't look at me. "After a lot of thought, and in consideration of our families, we've decided it's best if Sophia doesn't attend the wedding tomorrow." The silence was deafening. She continued, stumbling over her words. "It's just, you don't really fit the aesthetic, Sophia. And we don't want Brendan's family to feel uncomfortable." A punch to the gut. That's what it felt like. I looked at my parents. My mother stared at her plate. My father cleared his throat and took a sip of water. No one said a word. They were letting this happen. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood up, my own composure a weapon. "I understand," I said, my voice even. And then I walked out. The second I got into my car, the mask shattered. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white, and for a second, I just let the wave of humiliation wash over me. A single, hot tear escaped and rolled down my cheek. A tear for the little girl who just wanted her parents to see her. But it only lasted a moment. I wiped the tear away, my sadness hardening into steel. I took a deep breath, my expression shifting from hurt to resolved. I picked up my phone and dialed Anna. "Anna, it's me," I said, my voice steady now, "all business. Activate Clause 7B in the Hartwell-Keller event contract. The reason is a breach of the client code of conduct, causing brand damage. I want an official notification sent to their wedding planner's email within 10 minutes. No direct contact." The next morning, my phone started blowing up around 7 a.m. First Melissa. Then my mom. Then my dad. I ignored them all, sipping my coffee and watching the stock market ticker on the news. The chaos was starting, right on schedule. Then came a call from a number I did have saved. It was David, the head of security at Willowbrook Gardens, the dream venue Melissa had been gushing about for months. "Ms. Hartwell," he said, his voice urgent. "Apologies for the early call, but we have a situation at the front gate. A Mrs. Carol Hartwell and a Ms. Melissa Hartwell are here, causing a disturbance. They're demanding to be let in." "They are not on the access list, David," I said calmly. "Follow standard procedure." "Understood, ma'am." Minutes later, my dad called. This time, I answered. The panic in his voice was a new sound. "Sophia, what in God's name is going on?" he yelled. "They're not letting Melissa into her own wedding venue. Her planner just got some crazy legal email. You have to do something." "Why do I have to do something, Dad?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. Because this is a disaster. We need to talk. All of us. Now." "Fine," I said. "I'll set up a video call for 10 a.m. Make sure you're all there." At exactly 10 a.m., their faces popped up on my screen. My dad, red-faced. My mom, looking like she'd been crying. And Melissa, her hair a mess, her makeup smeared. She looked broken. A small, petty part of me enjoyed it. "Sophia, thank God," my dad started, trying to take control. "You need to call those people at Willowbrook Gardens and fix this. Tell them there's been a misunderstanding." "I don't think I can do that, Dad," I said smoothly. "This seems to be a legal matter now. I'm a bit out of my depth." "What are you talking about?" Melissa sobbed. "Well, since this is a legal issue, I thought it best to have some professional guidance," I said, and with a click, a new window appeared in the video call. A man in a sharp suit. "Everyone, this is Mark Feinerman, our corporate counsel." Mark nodded curtly. Mr. and Mrs. Hartwell, Ms. Hartwell, he began, his voice devoid of emotion. As per the event contract, any action by the client or their party that is deemed detrimental to the brand image of Grandview Hospitality gives the company the right to terminate the contract immediately. The public dismissal of a guest at a pre-event function, especially when that guest is a family member of the client, falls squarely into that category. Grandview Hospitality, my dad stammered, confused. Who is that? We signed with Willowbrook Gardens. Melissa finally spoke, her voice a raw whisper. How could we know about some stupid rule? That was my cue. I leaned forward, looking directly into the camera. You should have known, Melissa, I said. Because the contract, with all its stupid rules, was signed off on by the owner of Willowbrook Gardens. I paused, letting the weight of the moment hang in the air. And that owner, I said, my voice clear and unwavering, is me. I shared my screen. On it was the official state registration for Grandview Hospitality, LLC. And right there, in plain black and white, was the name of the founder and CEO, SOPHIA Hartwell. Silence. Utter, complete, world-shattering silence. I watched their faces crumble in real time. The confusion, the disbelief, then the horrifying dawn of understanding. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father just stared, his face pale. Melissa looked like she had seen a ghost. My dad finally found his voice, a choked whisper. You can fix this, right, Sophia? Please? I let the question hang there for a moment. Then I gave them my final, devastating truth. There's nothing to fix, I said. A business decision has been made. However, as a gesture, there is a solution. I clicked again, bringing up a picture of a breathtaking estate, all stone and ivy and sprawling lawns. Rosewood Estate is available. It's our most exclusive property. A flicker of hope in their eyes. The standard commercial rate is $50,000, I continued, payable up front. Consider it a lesson in how the real world works. A lesson, Dad, you never quite got around to teaching me. I looked at my mother. And the profits from the event. I'll be donating them in your name, Mom, to that women's education fund you once told me was a waste of time. Just so you can see how much value a Vien Vong dream can actually create. I won't be attending, of course. 8 months passed. 8 months of strained silence. Then, a letter arrived. Not an email, not a text, but a handwritten letter on simple stationery. It was from Melissa. She didn't just apologize. She told me that after the wedding, which had gone ahead at Rosewood, she couldn't stop thinking. She had looked up my company. She had read articles about me. She told me she had visited the Women's Education Fund and had seen, with her own eyes, the work they were doing. She said she was ashamed. Not because I was successful, but because she had never bothered to see me. She asked if we could get coffee. We did. It was awkward. There were long silences. But it was a start. It's going to take time, Melissa, I told her. And she nodded, understanding. A year after that, I was at our cousin's wedding. It was at Rosewood. I watched my family. They were different. The old dynamics were gone, replaced by a quiet, uncertain respect. During the reception, my phone buzzed. It was my dad. I braced myself. Hey, Soph, he said, his voice hesitant. Quick question. I'm thinking of moving some of my retirement funds. I was looking at this tech portfolio, what do you think? I stood there, surrounded by the laughter and music of a wedding I was truly happy to be at, giving my father financial advice. He wasn't asking for a handout. He wasn't pitying me. He was asking for my opinion. My expertise. After the call, I looked out over the gardens, a glass of champagne in my hand. And I raised it. Not to anyone in particular. Just a quiet toast to myself. Peace wasn't about them finally seeing my success. It was about them finally seeing my worth. And more importantly, it was about me knowing I never needed their permission to have it in the first place. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It's been a long journey, and I'm still navigating it. I'd love to know, have you ever had to completely reset the boundaries with someone in your life? Let me know your story in the comments below. And if you found any part of this meaningful, I'd be so grateful if you'd like this video and subscribe for more stories.